Hello friends, welcome back to another important video. Now imagine you are working at your branch and suddenly a legal notice arrives to freeze a customer's funds. What should you do? Can you touch fixed deposits? And what about his joint accounts? So today we are breaking down on one of the most crucial legal aspects of banking, that is garnishee order. But stay till end of this video for a practical case study that will not only help your daily banking but also in your principles paper of JIB and banking regulations and business laws paper of CIB. Importance of this concept is evident from the fact that every year IIBF asks at least one question from the garnishee order topic in JIB or CIB. So what is a garnishee order? Friends, a garnishee order is a legal attachment order issued by a court under Order 21, Rule 46 of Civil Procedure Code. A garnishee order is in fact used when a judgment creditor, that is a person or a company who has won a legal case, wants to recover their unpaid dues from a judgment debtor, that is a person who has been ordered to pay but hasn't done so. And friends, to recover these unpaid dues, the court directs third parties like banks to freeze and remit the funds held by the debtor. For example, let's say your customer Mr. Arindam has lost a case and was ordered to pay rupees 10 lakhs to a company. The company, which is unable to collect the money, requests the court to issue a garnishee order to freeze Mr. Arindam's bank accounts. Now, your bank has to act, but how? So next, let's see how does a garnishee order work. Friends, a garnishee order follows a structured legal process. In step 1, there is an issuance of order nishee, which is in fact a provisional order. In this first step, the court sends a preliminary order, which is called order nishee, to the bank, instructing it to freeze the debtor's accounts. Now please note here, debtor has the chance to object before the court makes a final decision. So at this stage, the bank does not transfer the funds yet. It only freezes them. Then step 2 is order absolute, that is final order. Friends, if the debtor fails to contest the order or the court rejects the objections, then the order nishee is then converted into order absolute. Here the bank is legally required to transfer the frozen funds to the court or the creditor. But please note, at this point the bank must be extremely careful, because failing to freeze the correct amount or mistakenly transfer funds before the order absolute can result in legal penalties. Now friends, before moving ahead with the lecture, don't forget to get your JIB resources from the links given in description of this video. All these are hard copy of 1000 series question banks of all the 4 papers of JIB that are delivered straight to your location, be it urban or rural location, without any shipping charges. All the question banks comes with lots of numericals, case studies and questions which are very important for your examination. With this material, you get comprehensive exam level question practice, and this makes you best prepared for your coming JIB examination. All the links are there in description of this video, so do get these amazing hard copy books after you finish this lecture. Now let's continue with the lecture. Next, what are the do's and don'ts for the banks under a garnishee order? Please note, on receiving the order, you have to do 3 things. First is record the date and time of receipt in the banking system. Then next, review whether the order is order nishee or order absolute. And lastly, inform the customer about the legal restriction. Next, it's important for you to understand what kind of funds can be frozen here. So please note, savings and current accounts can be immediately attached. Then next, we have fixed deposits. Now these can be attached only if no lien is marked here. Then next, we have joint accounts, and these can only be attached if the order specifically names them. Then next, in case of trust accounts, please note these cannot be attached because funds belongs to beneficiaries here. Then next, in case of uncleared checks, now these are not attachable if they are still in progress. And lastly, we have future deposits. Now please note here that the funds received after the order are not attachable. So if a customer receives a salary after the order is issued, can you freeze it? Well, the answer is no. Only the balance at the time of receiving the order can be attached. Another important thing to understand is handling of checks and suspense accounts. So friends, what happens if a customer issued a check before the order but it hasn't cleared yet? Now in that case, if the check has been debited but not yet withdrawn, then the bank should stop the cash payment and return the check with the remark refer to drawer. And secondly, if the check is still in clearing, then it must be returned unpaid. Next, friends, to avoid the mistakes, banks should transfer the frozen amount to a suspense account. And this is to ensure that no payments are accidentally made. Next, let's see some exceptions and special cases related to garnishee order. Now, first is right of set off. Friends, here if the debtor owes money to the bank, example an overdraft or a loan, then the bank's right of set off applies first. This means that the bank can recover its dues first before executing the garnishee order. Then next, if a fixed deposit is lien marked against a loan, then also the garnishee order does not apply to it. Then second special case is that of multiple accounts. In that case, please note if the customer has multiple accounts in the same bank, only the credit balance can be attached. And second, also note that the bank cannot adjust a debit balance against a credit balance to satisfy the order. And last special case is balances outside India. Here also please understand that the funds in foreign accounts cannot be attached under an Indian garnishee order. Friends, finally, let's see what are the consequences of non-compliance of garnishee orders by the banks. So if a bank fails to freeze the required amount or mistakenly transfers funds before order absolute, then it can face first is legal penalties, that is the bank may have to pay the amount from its own funds. Then next is regulatory action, that is authorities may take disciplinary action against the bank. And lastly, we have customer lawsuits, that is here the affected customer may sue the bank for mishandling their funds. Friends, with this I hope you are clear with the concept of garnishee orders. Next we will do a case study that will make the concept absolutely clear. This case study is also important with respect to your principles paper of GIB and BRBL paper of CIB. And the case study goes like this. Your bank receives a garnishee order against a customer, Mr. Ramesh Verma, a well-known businessman. The court order details are, first, that is, it is issued by a district court in favor of Amar Jyoti Enterprises, which is a creditor. Then next, the purpose of this garnishee order is to recover unpaid dues of Rs 25 lakhs from Mr. Verma. And finally, the action required here is that bank must freeze Mr. Verma's accounts and remit funds upon court confirmation. Now the details of Mr. Verma's bank accounts are also given. That is, his saving account has Rs 5 lakhs, then current account has Rs 10 lakhs, and finally fixed deposit account has Rs 15 lakhs. So now the big question is, how should the bank act? Can it freeze all these funds? Let's analyze this step by step. Now the first challenge is identifying the attachability of funds. Here you have to freeze the right accounts. So as we have learned earlier that saving and current accounts will be attachable here. But what about the fixed deposits? Now this needs to be analyzed. Also note, we have learned earlier in the lecture that the bank's first action will be first to record the order details in the system, that is date and time. Then second, immediately freeze 15 lakhs, that is from saving and current accounts. And finally notify Mr. Verma about the legal hold. But what about Rs 15 lakh fixed deposit? Should it be frozen? Now we have learned earlier in the lecture that if the FD is not lien marked, that is, there is no loan against it, then the court may include it in the final remittance. And secondly, if FD has an existing lien or right of set off, example used as a security for loan, then the garnishee order does not apply. So what will be bank's action? Bank will simply inform the court about the FD and wait for its clarification. But for the time, it will exclude the FD from freezing. Then second challenge is handling joint accounts and other liabilities. Friends, what if Mr. Verma has a joint account with his wife or business partner? Can the garnishee order apply? Now we have learned earlier the joint account rules. That is, either or survivor accounts cannot be attached unless specifically named in the order. Then also note, joint accounts where all the holders are named in the order can be attachable. Next, if Mr. Verma was holding a trust account as a trustee, then in that account the funds belongs to the beneficiaries, not him. So it cannot be attached. So what will be bank's action here? The bank will simply review Mr. Verma's joint accounts and it will exclude any accounts not specifically named in the order. The next challenge 3 is processing uncleared checks and future transactions. Friends, what if Mr. Verma has issued checks before the order but they are still in processing? Should the bank honor them? So as we have learned in the rules for handling checks, that if the check has been debited but not yet withdrawn, the bank should refuse payment and return it with the marking refer to drawer. Secondly, if a check is still in clearing, then it must be returned unpaid. And what about the future credits? For those, we have learned that deposit received after the garnishee order was issued cannot be attached. So what will be bank's action here? Bank will simply reject uncleared checks, and it will also segregate future deposits from the frozen funds. Friends, final step will be execution of order absolute. After reviewing all the factors, the court will convert order nishii into order absolute. Now for this, the bank must remit the frozen funds to the court. So what steps should it take? In step 1, it will confirm the order absolute. Then in step 2, it will re-verify account balances to avoid any error. And lastly, in step 3, it will simply transfer the frozen funds to the court. So the final action will be simply Rs 15 lakh will be remitted to Amar Jyoti Enterprises, and fixed deposits were excluded based on court clarification. So friends, please remember 3 golden rules when handling a garnishee order. First is freeze and record immediately. That is, delay in action can have legal consequences. Then second rule is know what can and cannot be attached. Friends, fixed deposits, joint accounts and unclear checks needs to be reviewed very carefully. And lastly, wait for order absolute before remitting. Please note no action until court finalization. So friends, with this I wind up this lecture. I hope the important concept of garnishee order is clear to you. Lastly, don't forget to get your JIB and CIB resources from the links given in description of this video. So thank you, and I will meet you again in another video next week.